As a B2B service provider, should you be working with marketing and lead gen agencies? Should you do it at all? And if so, how? My name is Michael Bohannes, and I've helped over 120 B2B service providers build in-house client acquisition systems. And I've seen many people who have worked with marketing and lead gen agencies to varying degrees of success. And I have distilled the patterns of what makes some of them successful and the others not so successful. And so in this video, I want to give you some orientation. If you are considering working with a marketing or a lead gen agency, if that thought sometimes crosses your mind, then this video will be useful to you. Because more often than not, I hear from prospective clients and existing clients how in the past they got burned by agencies. And I don't want this to happen to you, when in fact the solution to working with agencies can be really, really simple and straightforward. But there is one premise that you have to accept, which is sometimes for some people it's a little bit unpleasant to accept, and that is that the foundations of your client acquisition need to be built and owned in-house. Now, some people say, no, this is not my specialty. I don't want to be focusing on sales and marketing. I'm a supply chain consultant. I'm an organizational design expert. I'm an executive coach. I don't want to be focusing on this dirty sales and marketing. I totally get it. But if you compare sales and marketing to any other outsourced role, like let's say accounting, right, then you're making a fundamental category error. Your business is standing on two legs. One is the ability to deliver value to clients, and the other one is the ability to get clients in the first place. Those two legs must be in place. If you're only standing on one, you are literally teetering until the next harsh wind starts blowing, right? You are not standing in a stable way. You're just exposed to the elements. And that applies to both, right? If you just really know how to get clients really well and your business is about something else than client acquisition, you know how to get clients, you're super charismatic. These are the people who are, for example, excellent with marketing themselves. They have a great personal brand, but they're broke because they don't know what they should be selling. And then there's the other extreme, which is more frequent. These are the subject matter experts, the people who have been employed for a long time, and now they want to get clients, but they just don't know how much work it takes and that it requires a certain level of skill that can be learned to sell and market your services. Okay, so those two legs need to be understood, that these are so fundamental that you have to get client acquisition in-house first. You cannot outsource this. Well, so if we accept this premise, if you're with me here, then does that mean that you should reject all work with agencies? Because by definition, an agency is someone who does the work for you. Well, no, I don't think so. I think there is still room for working with an agency, and we will cover how to do it. But first, let's elaborate a little bit on the mechanics and the specifics of what it means to build your own client acquisition systems foundation in the business yourself. So if you don't have client acquisition systems, meaning that if you in your company's history, or let's say even in the last 6 to 12 months, have not had at least 3 new clients come in that did not come in via referral because they heard of you or something like that, but they literally come in because they, for example, saw your content or that you have approached them. So if you don't have that, at least if the vast majority of your business depends on referrals and repeat clients, then you have a real problem in your business. I speak to 5 to 10 business owners every week, and let's say 20 or 30% of them are very often in profound distress. They've been cruising on referrals for the majority of their company's existence, and as such, their client acquisition muscle has completely atrophied, if it even was there in the first place. So they have absolutely no idea how to get clients, and they've allowed this to go on for such a long time that they are now in real financial trouble. And then there's another certain percentage of them, I would say another 20 to 30%, who are actually proud of depending on referrals, who are sometimes even a little bit blasé about it. Like, I don't have to, lower myself to do sales and marketing for myself because I have enough referrals coming in. But of course, that exposes them to the elements. And as soon as a little recession, even a hint of a rumor of a recession hits, then things can dry up very, very quickly. And before you know it, they fall into the first bracket of people, namely those who are in real financial distress. So if you want to avoid that, you need to develop your own client acquisition systems in-house. And that is not extremely complicated. You just need to understand the core concept of having an offer that if you expose 100 strangers to it, that a certain small percentage of them will be agitated enough to want to book a call with you and learn more. That is effectively everything that it is, right? Having an offer, something like an interesting value proposition, an interesting promise, one especially that lowers their perceived risk of working with somebody who just approached them, working with a stranger. But if you can come up with that, something that reduces their risk and is valuable and interesting enough to at least take a call with a stranger, and when you have the feeling that this stranger understands you, then you have effectively nailed client acquisition. Then you just need the vehicle to put this message in front of as many people as you possibly can. So what should this offer consist of? Well, in our case, it's very straightforward. We offer a money-back guarantee, meaning if our systems don't help you get clients, if simply you follow our instructions and you don't book new clients, then of course we will refund you. If you don't make money, we don't want to make money. Now, in your case, very often a money back guarantee could be the answer as well, but some clients are not all that money sensitive. For them, it's much more the reputational risk that they incur with working with somebody like you. So what can you do to lower their perceived reputation risk, for example? Could you be working with them one-on-one initially before they announce it to the rest of the company, before they have to ask for a budget? Can you work with them in a clandestine way for a month so that they really become comfortable with you before they ask for a budget to pay you? That's one way. Or could you give them a free sample of your work in some way? There's many different ways how to be creative. It's all about lowering their perceived risk. So if you are getting rejected by people and they tell you, no, I'm not going to work with you, if you can ask why, then you will understand the reasons for rejecting you, and then you can work on overcoming those reasons. Also, an offer is very relative to what else is being offered in your market. So if, for example, it is standard in your market to expect 3-month rolling retainers from the very beginning, then you just offering a one-time consultation for $1,000 can be a big win and can be a huge comparative advantage. So it doesn't always have to be a money-back guarantee, but something that makes you stand out from the crowd, and where the perceived risk of engaging with this stranger, the time lost, the potential money invested, if it turns out to be a muppet, that this risk gets substantially lowered. That is what a good offer is about. And once you've crafted such an offer, then you simply need to present it to a big enough number of people. And this delivery vehicle is usually best done in the form of cold emailing and cold DMing. Content, of course, could also work, but there you need to be the kind of breakout success who gets, tens of thousands of views on LinkedIn or instantly hundreds and thousands of views on YouTube, right? That is not easy to accomplish. And it's a little bit of a lottery, whereas any kind of outbound activity, cold DM and cold email, is a much bigger equalizer, right? You don't have to be good looking or super talented in order to get clients in this way. You just need to contact a large number of people with a good offer. Now, of course, you could say, I want to be running ads. I strongly recommend you against it. If at this point you are still in the situation where you have not had 3 strangers to come to you as clients, I strongly recommend you don't consider running ads. Why? Because it's a much bigger investment. It's usually more complicated, more moving parts. And if you have not yet run a successful offer in a organic way where you get much more qualitative feedback, then running ads is definitely not something you should touch, much less with an agency. Just keep your finger off this. Only do this once you've done cold email and cold DMing successfully. And there are ways of making cold email non-icky, so it's not automatic that you become a fraudulent spammer if you use cold emails. There are ways to do this very in a civilized way, as many of our responses to our emails attest, where people tell us what a great approach this is and how they appreciate it. And so depending on your business and the average customer lifetime value that you have, you will, using this method, book anywhere from 1, maybe even 10 calls a week. And so if this is not currently happening, if you don't have that, then I really recommend you to stay away from any kind of agencies who wants to do this work for you, to give you clients. These agencies will come to you and say, hey, can you handle 20 to 100 sales appointments every month, right? Stay away from that until you have figured it out yourself. You don't have to figure it out yourself. You can also, of course, work with somebody like me. So here's a little plug, but you can also work with anyone who is in this space, anybody who teaches you client acquisition systems, and do it yourself first. I know this is a thing I'm going to get the most resistance about. No, I don't want to build this myself. I want somebody else to do it. Good. You are dooming your business to be dependent on someone else if you insist on having someone else do this. Okay. It's very simple like this. If you more than 50% of your revenue depends on an outside party that you don't control, you are putting your business at serious peril, because you will build structures to support this number of clients. And then if that agency drops you, or if somehow the agency systems stop working and they don't know how to fix them, you're exposed to the elements, and all your structures and systems, maybe employees that you have, they will now have to carry a significantly smaller revenue base. Okay, so I'm trying to hammer this into people's heads many different ways, but I really strongly recommend that you have the core foundation of your business needs to be that you have client acquisition systems in-house. Okay, I'm going to stop ranting about this now, but I'm sure at this point you got the hint. You can work with somebody like ourselves. We specialize in B2B service companies who are currently stuck in referral mode, that they are dependent on referrals. We help them go from that place into a place where they know that if they put a certain amount of work or money into the system, that clients will come out on the other end. And if you don't want to work with us and join the 120 plus ranks of clients who we've helped build client acquisition systems, it's fine by me. Don't work with us, work with somebody else, but most certainly do not work with an agency, especially because you also don't know, you don't have the wherewithal, the map, the compass to understand which agency is good and which one isn't. You'll be amazed that once you've built your own systems, once you know how to craft a good offer and how to run the mechanics of running cold emails, for example, you will be so much more knowledgeable. You can ask agencies that come to you much better questions, and you'll be able to tell the not so competent ones from the better ones by asking much better questions. And please, for the love of God, stay away from coaching programs that are especially cheap, like any kind of $100 a month communities that tell you, oh, you will get more exposure and you're going to get, more engagement on LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. Those are not very good because the owners, the people who run those, are terrified of sales, and they will never teach you how to actually go out into the market and proactively sell yourself, craft a good offer, and be very persistent in selling because they themselves are scared of it. That's why they have a community. That's how they make money. But go with somebody who is actually good at cold emailing, cold DMing, because this is the number one thing you can control. Content is so fickle. I'm not saying stay away from it, not at all. You should do content, but it's so fickle and unpredictable as a tool to get clients. There's people who just post for years and years without many results. And there's other people who just start and they are, kind of kissed by the muses and blessed by God, and clients come in. They're a small minority, but it's just so unpredictable of what it is that you need to do to get clients via content that it's an important backup. You need to do it. You need to gradually become better and learn it, but it's not a thing to depend on. The thing to depend on is outbound when you're starting to build client acquisition systems. Now, let's make a short digression at this point and look at the pay-per-lead or pay-per-appointment business model that some freelancers and agencies offer. Should you do this? Well, I say in one specific case, you can do it, but in the vast majority of cases, no, you shouldn't. And here's why. First of all, reason one applies to all agencies is because they simply give you the fish and they don't teach you to fish. Okay, so that's the core foundational argument of this video, right? Reason number two, more important in this context, is that the pay-per model is being done by the least knowledgeable people. And I'm not dissing them, I'm crapping on them in any way. When you are starting out with a marketing agency, this is actually the safest model to get you a couple of client testimonials. So yes, charging an appointment or a success fee is perfectly fine when you're starting out. But note, if you're the business owner, note that I say when you're starting out. When you're starting out, you're not particularly good at that. Right. So if you are working with an agency who is offering a pay-per-success model, you are by definition working with somebody who is either starting out, and that's fine, you can give them a chance, or you're working with somebody who is simply not good enough to advance to the next stage of what most agencies want to get to, which is a monthly retainer model. If you're not even good enough to build an agency with a retainer model, you're probably not very good at what you do. And so if you as a business owner choose to work with somebody like that, you are stacking two problems on top of each other. First, you're getting fish instead of learning to fish. And second is you are teaching from the worst fishermen out there. And these are the people who just go out there and they have like one rod in the water and whatever, some kind of candy is dangling from it so that no fish really want it, right? This is not a way to do this. And so by doing this, especially by insisting that you want to work with pay-per-commission agencies, you are biasing the helpers to only be the worst ones that are out there. And by doing this, you're actually delaying the point at which your business will be self-sustaining. There will be client acquisition systems in place. You will have diversified client acquisition methods and so on. You're delaying that point. One important thing to understand from the viewpoint of the agency, this is also the most risky model for them. So they will not be putting a lot of effort into you. This is another reason why they are not particularly good fishermen, because you have to think about it. From their point of view, clients are also risky. Clients are very often bad to work with. If you as a marketing agency are charging a success fee, you don't know if, for example, if you're charging per appointment, you don't know how good they are at sales, especially if they are a company that does not have much experience with running sales calls with strangers. They've so far only been doing sales calls with referral clients, which are like shooting fish in a barrel. But if they're not good at sales calls, very often you just deliver them like 60 leads and they close one of them, something like that. So this is also risky to be working with clients, and it's going to take you as a marketing agency a while before you find a good client. So again, if you're the client here in this scenario, you are dealing with someone who legitimately quickly wants to find someone who's going to be good to work with. And so if they are trying to get you appointments and it doesn't work instantly, they will drop you. And then you'll start again from ground zero. So it's just reason on top of reason why not to work with a pay-per-commission or pay-per-lead, whatever you call it, agency. But there are two cases in which it is okay to work with a pay-per-appointment agency. And one is when you want to give somebody young a chance, right? I think I'm very much in favor of giving young people a chance, especially if they try to prove themselves. So if somebody comes to me and say, hey, listen, I'm just new to this. I don't really know how to do this. I'm not going to take up much of your time, but please allow me to book you calls. Then I'm going to give them a chance, right? Because it just takes me 1 or 2 hours of my time, maybe to explain some things to them. And then let's see if they are doing a good job. Funnily enough, this does not happen very often, that somebody would actually present me with such a pitch. Listen, I just need 1 or 2 hours from you and some of your visual assets, and then I will just run campaigns for you and I will book you calls. I don't see this very often. So if you're a marketing agency or your business has stopped working for some reason and you're considering doing something like this, then this is a big one that can really get you very far. And the second case in which I would accept working with a pay-per-appointment agency is when my systems are working and I just want to put a few experimental rods into the water. Good marketing is always done in a way where 80% of your budget is going into something that is already working and is just feeding and improving and nurturing that. 20% should go into experiments. And there I absolutely recommend that you even work with pay-per-appointment agencies because it's very low risk. You can see whether you can find the occasional gem in the rubble. Most of them will not be successful, but those who are successful and where the model is really intriguing, it has a wide range of applicability. You could just run through your entire global market and just simply run through them in a new way. That is very promising, and I would absolutely be in favor of that. However, always with the proviso, only take on those agencies if you tell them, hey, yes, we will do this. I'm happy to do this. If this works, I'm even going to pay you a retainer, but with the proviso that if it works, I want you to teach me your method in full, completely. I want to ingest this method and then apply it in-house. If you're not up for that, and if you won't quote me a price right now that you will then charge me for a complete implementation, in that case, I don't want to work with you. By the way, power move in this scenario, if you can effectively give a briefing document into a Google Drive folder where you also include your visual assets so that a pay-per-appointment agency can just take that, really understand what your business is about, get all the success stories, truly understand everything, and then just needs to start advertising for you, then you don't have to spend time with every individual agency and briefing them on your business. But again, reminder, only do this. I'm only giving you permission to do this if you already have a system in place, because you never want to have more than half, I would say, even never have more than a third of your entire book of business come from outside sources that you cannot control. You are dramatically increasing the risk if you do. Okay, so end of digression. Most of the time, avoid working with pay-per-result agencies unless you're putting the hooks in the water or you want to give a rookie a chance. In this case, absolutely okay. Just avoid working with them altogether. Okay, now, in which case is it okay to work with a retainer agency at all, and how should you go about hiring one? And as I already indicated, in my opinion, and this opinion is not shared by many people, but it is shared by the best people, so that's why I adopted it. And that is, you should only use an agency if they are willing to teach you their method, if it works. You should aim to ingest their methodology in-house at some point. So let's look at it sequentially. Stage 1, you're depending on referrals. At this stage, learn the basics yourself, do cold DMing, cold emailing, so that you build a basis of client acquisition systems. Do not work with agencies at this point, only work with coaching programs who help you accelerate that process of learning and figuring it out. And preferably work with one that offers a money-back guarantee. So that's how they are incentivized to actually deliver. Stage 2, you now have a method that books you at least one new client per week. Now, if you want to stay at that level, if that is enough for you, then fine. Of course, in that case, don't work with an agency, and never get tempted. If somebody comes to you and promises you, hey, we're going to give you 20, 30 more appointments every week, don't be tempted to do that. Okay. Because if they deliver you 20 or 30 appointments per week, then you're going to be massively dependent on them going forward. Now, at this point, you could say, well, what if I just accept this agency that promises me 20, 30 appointments per week, and then I do what you recommend, Michael, that then I will ingest their method? I say, no, at this point, it's not a good idea, because you, sorry to say, are at this point, when you're booking 1 or 2 appointments a week, not sophisticated enough to understand, to see the subtle differences between agencies, see who is good, who isn't. And if it works for them, you will be too dependent on them. And you also don't have a huge amount of leverage. You don't have leverage to be able to pay them, because they might ask for 10, 20, maybe even 30,000 to teach you their method. Do you have that kind of money lying around if you get so few calls booked yourself? Also, a good agency, a really solid agency, will charge your retainer starting at 5K, maybe even more a month. And so do you have that kind of money to pay an agency? If yes, okay. I recommend that you, as I said, you can absolutely get to $500,000, even $1 million with one channel, one product, one avatar, yourself, just running it yourself with a couple of freelancers. Again, don't get tempted to work with an agency at this point. And so once you've reached a solid, reliable, multi-6-figure, even 7-figure level, at this point, you can then accept to work with an agency. You want to explore a new channel, by all means, but work with an agency, and where you make the following clear and upfront, and you ask them for a commitment upfront. And that is, you say, look, I want to work with you for 6 months. After those 6 months, we can then roll this possibly into just a pure coaching retainer. But in those 6 months, I want you to first run it for me, prove the concept. I'm going to be working closely with you so that we get the proof pretty quickly. And at that point, at the very latest, from month 4 onwards, I want you to teach us your method and to just make sure that we can replicate what you are doing. If you're not willing to do that, then we don't have a deal. And I'm happy to pay you a premium, and I'm happy to pay you extra for that teaching process. That's fine. But we want the whole thing. And then maybe later on, we can decide that ad hoc, if we need more coaching from you, we can do that. Are you willing to do that? Yes, great. How much will you charge us? It's important to get that number down first, so that once they see that this is a big success, they will then price gouge you up to the eyeballs, right? So we don't want this to happen. We want to have a fixed price for this already set. And in this fixed price, there will be a transfer of all the tools, all the tools and knowledge and blueprints and templates and so on. And they have to hand it over to you to a point where you truly understand how it works. And then maybe some coaching retainer going forward. And that should always be for a discrete method. So let's say Facebook ads or TikTok ads or webinar-based sales, right? Where they have some kind of unique method of getting clients from webinars, okay? And when it comes to selecting an agency, who should you work with? Obviously, pick one that is good at their craft. Hint, if they are charging a lot, they're probably going to be quite good. So you might need to pay for that, that's why it's important that you have come to a good revenue level first. Because if you are at whatever, 100, 200K yourself, how likely are you going to be able to pay a $7,000 or $10,000 a month retainer agency? The best agencies charge even way more than that. I know an agency whose prices start at like $40,000 a month. Okay. So it's just, you have to have a serious amount of money in the bank before you can work with a really, really good agency. So that's one thing. The next thing is pick one that has one client avatar. It's relatively okay if they have many different methods, but if they have 2 different client avatars, the worst case is if it's let's say a Facebook agency that serves both B2B and B2C clients. Terrible. Those are super different personas with super different kind of business models, very different sales cycles, couldn't be farther apart. So if that's a red flag, if there ever was one, if it's a Facebook agency, pick one that serves clients who are really similar and comparable to you. And so then stage 3, once you've picked that agency and you've incorporated their model, you get into stage 3 where you are maxing out that model and you can repeat that cycle at stage 2 again. Let's say they've helped you to really nail Facebook ads. You're you feel like you're really maxing out Facebook ads, your ROAS is becoming worse and worse. In that case, you can then, okay, let's see, can we branch out and start doing YouTube ads, for example, or YouTube organic, whatever it is, get an agency that knows what they're doing, and then again, sequentially transfer the knowledge in-house. And so outside of this approach, I really don't think that you should be working with an agency. Don't make yourself dependent on one. They can drop you at any time. And then you have all these structures in place that will make your business implode because you cannot support it with revenue. And this intentional, systematic approach will also protect you from this ad hoc type of partnerships where you are just sitting there not doing much and somebody contacts you over cold email and you think, hey, well, I could try that, right? That is just way too ad hoc. It's not an intentional way of building a business. And this approach that I just outlined will protect you from that. Focus on building a foundation of client acquisition systems first. And this is something we can help you with. And click the link in the description of this video. There's a sales video, 12 minutes, and where I explain what it is that we do. And if that's interesting to you, then sign up and book a call. If not, no problem at all. I hope this video served you well, and I see you in the next one.